I got passed over for a promotion. I was made up for doing listing videos. I was told by a coworker I did not deserve the listing that I got. I was stolen from by a business partner multiple times. I was lied to by staff members. I was fired by clients, and I was discounted after I delivered results on a promise. That list was actually a list that I did during a deep thinking session where the prompt was name some times in your life where really difficult things happen that rocketed you to growth. And even though every one of those things was massively uncomfortable, I can promise you they have provided more in way of success than pretty much anything else in my career up to this point. So I'm going to go through the list, and hopefully this will give you a little bit of motivation to get through some tough times. So the first one was I got passed over for a promotion. So I worked at a company for a very long time, and objectively, I worked more hours than a lot of other people. I felt I deserved the promotion by seniority, by the blood, sweat, and tears I put into the job, and I did all the things in the actual position except for one very crucial thing. I didn't play politics. I never really have, and I've always been a bit of an outsider sometimes from that perspective. And because I didn't play politics, I got passed over for a promotion. And that was a very valuable lesson to me, not because it was going to change who I was, but it made me decide that I was never going to be in a position where somebody else could dictate my future. And it actually pushed me towards real estate in a massive, massive way. And I can definitely translate that to the real estate industry today. There's a lot of politics behind the scenes. I remember once I was offered a big speaking engagement, but I had to compromise my values for the politics of it, and I just refused to. And it's funny how I've had bigger opportunities since I stood my ground on that. So don't feel like you have to kowtow to other people's perception of what success could be. Just use it as a signal for the direction that you want to go. So the next one was I was made fun of for doing listing videos. So I watched Frederick Eklund on $1 Million Listing in Switzerland, I think, showcase a property through video. And I remember I called my videographer and said, hey, let's do that at 47 Virginia Ave, a simple house in Stony Brook. And he's like, dude, that was a cottage in the Alps. How are we possibly going to do the same video in Stony Brook in little old London, Ontario? And I was like, man, we will figure it out. So that you can still see that property tour, I think, on YouTube. But I put one foot in front of the other and started doing video and started using storytelling to showcase properties. Now, internally in the industry, I had people telling me, why are you wasting money doing video? You don't have to do that. Just price it low. It'll sell faster. You're spending money where you don't have to. But I saw a bigger picture on what video could be, especially in real estate marketing. And now I think we've set the gold standard definitely for our territory and have inspired a lot of other people, including our competition, to do video, and I absolutely love it. And I give credit to Frederick Eklund because if you've ever been inspired by somebody to do video, I really think you should give them credit as well too. And it's not taking anything away from your own success. You are going to do different. You are going to do it differently than they are, and you're going to make it their own. And I promise you will get further ahead by giving proper credit where credit is due. Now, the tough part about that is people were taking shots at me as well, like in passing comments and conversations. And even from what other agents who I thought were my friends were telling people who were my friends that got back to me. And I'll be honest with you, just shut out the noise, and other people's opinions are absolutely none of your business. I could have second guessed myself, and I probably did at times. But instead of focusing on the negativity, I focused on the positivity, and we continue to use video at a massive level and are always trying to set the bar. And I think that's kind of the fun part about life. Nothing is inherently good or bad unless you give it weight. In this instance, I gave the negativity a positive weight, and it really shaped the future of what we are doing in video. I was told I didn't deserve the listing I got. This one actually really hurt in the beginning. I remember my wife and I got a commercial property that had a 55% vacancy. Our seller wanted $1 million. Everybody told us it was only worth $500 to $600. And we actually got an email from somebody in our office that told us we didn't deserve that listing because we were new and we weren't qualified. What that person failed to realize was my wife is incredibly smart, had her MBA from the Richard Ivey School of Business. We had a background in analyzing commercial real estate deals. So we got creative. We actually sold the building for $850,000 with a $750,000 VTB, 5% interest for a 5-year term for $750,000, meaning after 5 years, our seller cleared $1 million. So we actually sold it for very much what our client wanted, got the buildings in the hands of somebody who could actually get it up to full occupancy, refinance the building, and then clear the financing. So again, if I had just focused on the negativity and all, maybe they're right, maybe we're not qualified, instead of focusing on the deal, probably wouldn't have got that deal done. I was stolen from. This was a great lesson in terms of making sure you button up your contracts. I'm very much a handshake deal type of guy. I was working on a file with a partner of mine and brought him a buyer for a building that he owned. Next thing I knew, the transaction processed and closed, and I was nowhere on the paperwork, which blew my mind because I assumed we were actually in partnership, and really hurt at the time, but gave me a clear picture of who this person was and prevented me from getting into a couple other deals with them that I promise you would have been very negative for my career. And it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just how they do business. We're actually still friends to this day, and it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And it made it very clear on who I wanted to do business with and who I shouldn't. I was lied to multiple times by multiple staff members. It was super interesting because at the time when I asked them specific questions, I actually knew the answer to the question because it had already been brought to my attention that they were looking for another position or they felt a certain way about something they didn't bring to me. And I tried to give them the grace to have the conversation with me. What they didn't realize is where we were heading as a company was far different than what they thought our business model was. And I can't control how people interact with me. I can only control how I react to it. And I'll give you this piece of advice, whether you're an employer or an employee. If you feel a certain way about something or somebody, the best thing that you can do is actually bring it to their attention and have a conversation about it, because you may be leaving one of the biggest opportunities of your career on the table because you've created a narrative in your own head that simply isn't true. And communication solves quite a bit. I was fired by clients. I've never been fired for over communicating. I've definitely been fired for under communicating. If you've done any level of business in real estate or entrepreneurship in general, you know this to be true. And I can think of times where I've been let go by clients, or I have fired clients because they just really weren't a right fit. They didn't value what we did from a work perspective. They didn't truly believe in what we did long term. And I've gone on to sell other properties similar to theirs because those people trusted the process. I'll give you an example. So luxury homes are something that you really need to have a plan for, and you have to understand that the right type of buyer at the right time is who will pay the most money. I had one set of buyers. I had one set of sellers. We were selling a lakefront property for them, and we were trying to achieve a record-breaking sale. We listed it at $4 million when all the comparables and competition told them it was worth 2.9 to 3.2. Ultimately, we ended up going through a couple different market cycles, reduced it to 3.75, actually had 3 buyers for the property, and the right buyers were able to sell a couple properties and jump on it for 3.6, which is unbelievable. I think that they actually, as a buyer, really saw the future value of that property as one of the largest developable lakefront lots. And I think the sellers really understood that we had to go through a few market cycles and grind and follow back for the sale to make it happen at a record-setting number. I had another seller who called me who needed to get bodies through their property and wanted attention on it. And I literally put over 120 people in their property for an event. And I delivered on every promise that I made contractually because, remember, I learned my lesson of making sure that I write down in contracts what is being promised. We got to the end of the listing term. I gave them advice that we really did need to reduce the price, that this wasn't necessarily just an attention problem. And I'd proven it because I literally packed their house, got hundreds of thousands of views on their properties, and they chose to go another direction. And now I've watched, they've done 2 price reductions below where I thought they actually had to be, and took my advice with another agent who doesn't have the system that we have. And I think the difference between those two is I would rather partner with the first people who will tell me what they think, who actually trust me, than the second one who, if you don't trust me, I can't help you, and I'd rather not be working with you anyways. And the last one was I was discounted for my services at the end of the transaction after I completed the mandate. And this happens all the time in real estate where people will ask for a further reduction after you've completed the actual job. And many times, as advice I give to new agents, is you need to just be able to stand your ground and show that you've given value. A lot of times agents will turn around and just give up their hard-earned money because of the fact that they didn't really provide any other value besides doing the clerical paperwork. But it happens more frequently than you can imagine. And again, I never lean into the negative side of things. A lot of times I just have a discussion with the people of, is there something that I did that you think feels warrants a discount? And if we've ever made a mistake, trust me, we've owned it. And then a lot of times we've gone over and beyond with clients to get deals done that would not have otherwise gotten done because maybe emotions got involved in the transaction and we knew it was the best thing for them. At the end of the day, every single story I gave you could be incredibly negative if you let it be, but you don't have to be. Nothing is inherently good or bad. It just is. It's how you choose to react to it that will define who you actually are.